I mean, I just think that that's just that's just another sign that we are really in trouble as a society. Comedians can't hold it together. Oh boy.
Wow.
What's up, everybody? My name is MichaelStephenson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You are currently watching my art/entertainment industry series in which I talk mainly about film, television, with a little sprinkling of music, as well as art, as well as publishing, book publishing, things of that nature. So if this is your first video, your first time here, I would ask that you please go back and watch some of my previous videos. I'm trying to build a sort of foundational language or lingo here on the channel so that we can have a shorthand and you guys will know what I'm saying when I say the Avatar era or the Lost effect, things of that nature. You'll just know what the language is, so I don't have to re-explain it. So I ask that again, you please go back and view some of those previous videos. So I'm keep it real fresh and funky with y'all. So first off, we are still in the middle of Marvel month. Now it's bleeding into more months. I don't know how long it'll be, but I'm sort of taking a reprieve a little bit from that simply to do a comedy week because I want to talk about the current state of comedy. And April 1st was a day or two ago. So the whole April Fool's thing, right? Pranks, stuff like that. People are thinking of comedy. People are thinking of spring, etc., etc. And I wanted to do this video, but I did not really have an angle in which to, I guess, talk about it or to approach the subject. They always talk about writers, especially like reporters and things, right? Like, yeah, it's one thing to tell the story, but it's another thing to have a particular angle from which to tell the story, a particular vantage point or viewpoint. And so I was not going to do this video tonight, but then I stepped outside, got myself some fresh air, and I think I came back with an angle for it. And that is the state of the world. So a little bit before, if you've been watching my channel, you would know that I started this channel of criticism, and I had specific subjects that I wanted to cover all the way through the film and television industry. And they range from everything from race to gender to sex to LGBTQ stuff, and even to politics. So I had this sort of idea in my mind about how politics is sort of impacting our enjoyment of almost all entertainment media and forms. And it was sort of on a comedy thing, but it was also, how we just view almost everything. And so I guess this is sort of folded into that a little bit. I still have yet to fully tackle the idea of politics and how it's influencing us right now and certain political leanings, et cetera, et cetera. But we at least have to talk and touch a little bit on it when we're talking about the current state of comedy, specifically as it goes with comedians. So y'all, what the heck? Like, what the heck is going on with comedians right now? Seriously though, are are comedians okay? Oh my guys, because specifically stand-up comedians they've been having a time, man, and golly, I don't know. So just in 2024 alone, we've seen feuds break out amongst some of the greatest black comedians that we still have alive walking the earth today. Obviously, we have a lot of great ones that are dead, that have passed on, but we still have some really good ones that are alive right now. And it just feels almost like there's this weird sort of civil war between stand-up comedians right now. You have Cat Williams. Y'all, Cat Williams done went after basically everybody. Oh man, he has first off, I do believe that he's an Ohio native, so I think he's from Cincinnati. Oh God, from Cincinnati or from somewhere in that area, I believe. So again, shout out to my Ohio people. It's actually weird because we have three really top comedians, because Dave Chappelle also is from, I want to say he's from somewhere around, I know he's either from Ohio or he grew up in Ohio. There's some Washington D.C. in there somewhere as well, but I can't remember where he was born and where he grew up, because I think he spent his teen years somewhere else. But so I know he also has some place somewhere in there as well. And of course, you also have Steve Harvey. So yes, it's a lot of a good Ohio connection. So, like I said, Cat Williams has gone essentially after pretty much everybody in the industry and has called them out for various reasons, various things. And then I think it was following him, and this came off of Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe. He was previously an NFL football player, an NFL great, I believe. I don't know, because I've never watched the NFL. Football has never actually intrigued me or interested me in any way, shape, or form. So I've never seen him play. But he is now an NFL commentator, and I think he's on First Take. He was previously on Undisputed for Fox Sports for many years with Skip Bayless, and so now he sticks with Stephen A. Smith. But he also has in his contract, he also has that he can do his own podcast, and I think he owns the podcast 100%. And so he has had on his podcast. I want to say he has maybe 2 different podcasts. I'm not sure. Maybe they're one and the same, but the format changes. Again, sometimes he's with someone and they're talking, and then sometimes he's not. And when I say with someone, I mean like it's like a co-host that he has regularly. And then sometimes he has these interviews. The comedy thing, the comedian thing, came from these interviews. So again, this is for posterity's sake. If you don't know, Cat Williams, big time stand up comedian, he had an interview that went on for like 2 hours with Shannon Sharpe. He calls himself Shay Shay. That's his nickname, Uncle Shay. So he has this interview, and he just talks about like, he keeps going in, and there's this big thing of this rumor of like the Illuminati or the dark whatever. I know it's not true because I know the truth. I know the truth. It's something I don't talk about. The Provocateur. It's a book that I was made to write. We're not going to get into that. But he goes in and, he starts talking about this, and he starts calling out famous people in Hollywood, and almost all of them are black. And he specifically starts to call out fellow stand-up comedians. He said that, they've done these wild things. Some of the things are of a more sexual nature, more lewd nature. Some of them are just, this, that, and the third. And he's just calling out tons of different people. Then Monique, she comes on to the same podcast, and she says, yeah, you know what? I have a bone to pick too. Now, here's the thing. She has been picking this same bone for literally years now, well over half a decade at least. Maybe it's been a full decade now. In fact, pretty much she's been picking the same bone since the film Precious came out so many years ago. I mean, she done picked the bone so much. It's not any meat left on the bone. Ain't even no cartilage or gristle to chew on that bone. Please, for the love of God, put that bone down, Monique. I say that because she is one of the only celebrities that has actually ever interacted with me on Twitter or on X, because I asked her a question specifically about the same things that she's been talking about for years. And I think it was like something about pay that she felt that she should, that she was owed and that she didn't get, or something to that extent. I think it was when the Netflix deal, when that thing popped up. Oh my God, she comes on and she starts saying some of the same stuff that she's been saying for years. She's calling out big wigs in Hollywood. I think she's calling out Oprah again, because Taraji P. Henson, late in 2023, she was talking about her experience while filming the new musical version of The Color Purple, and she's talking about how she kind of hated it, and she felt like she wasn't treated right, and she felt like she wasn't paid right. And Monique just pounced on that, like, yeah, I've been saying the same thing for years, and now y'all finally listening to Taraji P. And other comedians are coming out and they're saying, oh my God, why are you continuing to be on this thing? And so she somehow calls out D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley has his own radio show, and I think it's nationally syndicated radio show. So then they get into their own little back and forth, and they're calling each other out of the names and all this stuff. And Oh my God. And then, of course, going back to Cat Williams, I want to say he called out Steve Harvey as well as Kevin Hart. I know somebody called out Kevin Hart. And as a matter of fact, I want to say it was probably two people that called out Kevin Hart, saying everything from he's not funny to he's done some things, quote unquote, to get his fame. He's supposedly an industry plant. And I'm like, okay, they say that he's an industry plant because he just became famous out of nowhere. So that's what they say. For those of you who may not know what an industry plant is supposed to be, they're supposed to be someone who's not actually talented, but who is propped up by the industry. And they're saying that, yeah, Kevin Hart is an industry plant. And I'm like, no, that just don't even jive, because even if you don't know what he's been doing, even if you haven't seen his stuff, dude has been putting in the work for years to create the sort of comedy empire that he now has. Regardless of whether you think that he's funny or not, he's put in the work to be there. But he's like, nah, he's an industry plant. He said the same thing years ago about Tiffany Haddish. I want to say he said something sort of similar again about Tiffany Haddish. This was, what's his name? This is Cat Williams saying this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God. You still have people going after Dave Chappelle. I think Corey Holcomb, he also has, I believe, either his own podcast or radio show, or he's on something. And you can find almost all this stuff, since they film everything too on YouTube. You find it pretty much all on YouTube as well. And so he said something about Donnell Rawlings, as well as Dave Chappelle, basically said that their comedy is not. Basically he said that their comedy is not real comedy, or that it's not really all that funny, that listen, I almost don't even know what the heck he's talking about, but I'm also weirdly enough kind of ashamed that I do know what he's talking about. But he almost came at it as if he is a rapper. He said that the dude's comedy is not like street enough or not hood enough or something like that. Like it's not, and like I said, to me, it sounded like he was dissing a rapper rather than another comedian, the way that he said what he said about the dude's comedy. And so you have this clip of Donnell yelling from the audience, because this happened literally within the same comedy club on the same night. Corey Holcomb was actually doing a comedy set in which he called out his fellow comedian Donald Rawlings, right after dude just came off the stage. So dude was sitting in the audience, and he gets up and he starts yelling at him from the audience. And I'm just like, what? In the famed Laugh Factory. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? Like, bro, you can see me out in the streets if you don't think that my comedy is real. Oh my God. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm trying so hard to figure out what the heck is going on. And then you have, I want to say, what's his name? Bill Maher. Is that how you pronounce his name? The white guy who's had the HBO show for a very long time. I want to say he was called out by, John Stewart. I want to say that he was called out by John Stewart. I'm just like, what the heck is going on with comedy, specifically with stand-up comedians, to where they are attacking each other all the time? And here's the problem. Here's the worst problem about it. It's not even that they're attacking each other. People are going to agree or disagree on plenty of things throughout their lives. I hate to say this, but honestly, the worst thing about this is that they're attacking each other, and most of the attacks are not that funny. When comedians get into it with each other, let's keep it real. You kind of expect for the back and forth to be a lot funnier. Like, am I the only one who thinks that? I don't know, because I just know that especially with D.L. Hughley, a lot of the baby boomer, the later born baby boomer, early born Gen Xer stand-up comedian crowd, a lot of them came from came from that insult comedian, that insult comic kind of vibe, to where like they would come out onto the stage and they would come out expecting for someone in the audience to yell out how they're not that funny, they are this, they are that, etc., blah, 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 only for them to then turn the rest of their comedic set into them just going after this one person, just ranking on this one person, like, you know, like, oh, you got a big head, dish your woman, I can take her, blah blah blah, just calling, also going all out on this one person to diss them, making the entire audience laugh their butts off at this one person who was stupid enough yet brave enough to try to call the stand-up comedian out for not being funny or whatever. And I'm just looking at some of the back and forth with these comedians right now, and I'm just like, I really expected this to be a lot funnier. Like, I hate to say that, but I'm sorry. I expected it to be way more hilarious. I don't know, man. Even going back some years, or maybe this was just last year, but you had what's his name, Damon Wayans, of the, you know, one of the Wayans brothers. He's one of the older Wayans brothers. Even he came in and he was like, yeah, you know, I don't think Dave Chappelle is funny anymore. What is he doing? Is he doing stand-up comedy, or is he giving lectures when he does a lot of his newer comedy specials? They feel more like professor lectures, in his opinion. I don't know what's going on with the stand-up comedians, but I do know that it's troublesome to me. First off, let's keep it real. I don't think I've ever seen this much back and forth between different comedians within the industry. But I don't even think I've seen one comedian really go in on another comedian since that whole Carlos Mencia thing. This is back when, what was his name, Joe Rogan? He was sort of trying to do like a stand-up / MC kind of thing for comedy clubs here and there. And he got called out, excuse me, but the comedian Carlos Mencia, he was a very popular comedian at the time. He was doing some jokes, doing some stand-up, and Joe Rogan hopped on stage to call him out for supposedly stealing the jokes of other comedians. And again, you know, theft is a huge thing within the art / entertainment community, theft of any kind, but especially theft of other people's work and stuff, trying to take their stuff, pass it off as your own joke. Now, again, you have to also remember that just like pretty much any other art / entertainment portion of the industry, there are plenty of stand-up comedians that actually have ghostwriters. So they don't write all of their own material. They have other comedians, other stand-up comedians who can write jokes and will write jokes for them and craft jokes and stuff for them, because stand-up comedy, it is a true craft. It really is. And it's difficult. It's really difficult to just stand up there and actually create jokes, set up punchline, and have all of that working. But Carlos Mencia, he was accused of stealing some jokes. Same thing happened to Dane Cook, I think, although it wasn't as big of a, I don't think it was nearly as big of a like news-making thing. The whole Joe Rogan hopping onto the stage with Carlos Mencia, that video went viral. I think Dane Cook was just sort of accused of taking one or two jokes from some other comedians, and it sort of soured people's idea of him, which is why he was very big in the mid-aughts going into 2010, and then he kind of just sort of disappeared, honestly. Like, you don't really hear anything about Dane Cook these days. You heard maybe a little bit about it back like 1 or 2 years ago when it came out that he was dating a teenager. Dude's almost 50, so, or maybe he is 50 at this point. So yeah, that made news. But outside of that, you don't really hear anything about his career anymore. So comedians very rarely seem to go after each other in this kind of way that we're seeing right now. And it concerns me for a few reasons. So one of my biggest concerns right now is that with so much attention going to the stand-up comedians and whatnot, getting into it with each other, sort of fighting and you know, just talking badly about each other, with so much oxygen being sucked out of the room, just focus on that kind of stuff and really not a lot of comebacks and things of that nature that are really funny or even iconic in some ways, that it's creating a culture around or within the stand-up community that is not conducive for highlighting new talent. Like I don't know if any of you know, or maybe you haven't recognized it, or maybe I'm just behind and I'm not recognizing it, but I have not seen nor heard of pretty much any new stand-up comedian who is like becoming super big time, just off of stand-up comedy. Like I haven't seen that in a long while. And I hate to say it, but the last few that I've seen who actually did become big off of stand-up comedy, and it's like you guys are gonna hate this, but the last two were Amy Schumer and Kevin Hart, and that's going back a lot of years. Just think about that. I can't think of. Don't get me wrong. There have been some stand-up comedians who have come along, and it's like, oh man, they are really good, but none of them seem to have become like a household name or a true blue, real Hollywood talent, so to speak, in the way that past stand-up comedians like Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock or pretty much all these other stand-ups. It used to be that stand-up comedy was a reliable. Honestly, there were two things. There was stand-up comedy, and there was the sort of comedy troupe that put on skits, things like SNL. And I have a whole video on SNL and acting fraternities. How to, if you were an actor or an actress, how you should build your own little network of people. I have a whole little video on that. I might release it this week or next week, but I still want to get back to my Marvel stuff. But it used to be that those were the two ways that a comedic actor or actress could get into the Hollywood industry and start acting, through stand-up comedy or through a skit-based stage work, comedy stage work, like an SNL or was it New Kids in the Hall? There was that Canadian one that like Steve Martin and stuff were from. Those were the two big ways. Now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I just haven't seen. Like, I guess you can account Pete Davidson as a stand-up comedian who also became big, but I hate to say it, but I've never seen any of his stand-up. Like, he and also the what's his name, the other guy that I'm sure some of you probably are mentioning or are ready to type in, that Matt Rife guy, right? The supposed pretty boy comedian. I hate to say it, but they both remind me of male versions of Tiffany Haddish. And Cat Williams, this is no hate against Tiffany Haddish, but he was right in one thing that he criticized Haddish for years ago, and that is that he said, yeah, she's supposed to be this big time stand-up comedian who got into the film Girls Trip and became, this big time comedic actor, and yet not a single person out there can remember a single one of her jokes. Like, you don't know what her signature joke is. You have no idea. Like with Cat Williams, at least you can go, poor little tink tink, or at least you can every day I'm hustling. Like when he's shopping and all this stuff. Like Cat Williams and pretty much the majority of stand-up comedians tend to have a signature joke. Even Kevin Hart, like his uncle in the car. Like, oh, gotta check the mirror. Gotta make sure the seatbelt is tight. Okay, look at the odometer. Okay, make sure that the left turn signal is okay. That's good. Make sure the right turns. Like, all of them seem to have signature jokes that people remember because they've seen their stuff. Matt Rife, Pete Davidson. Again, I'm sure maybe it's simply that I'm missing out because I don't have Netflix, and I know that everybody from Amy Schumer to Matt Rife, and I don't know if Pete Davidson has had a special ever. Honestly, I don't know if he's had a special or not, but I know Matt Rife has had a Netflix thing, right? And so maybe I'm missing out there, and maybe everybody is constantly quoting Matt Rife jokes, and I just don't know about it. I don't go into an office every day, so I don't know. But it very much so feels like they are that masculine version of Tiffany Haddish, to where somehow, some way, yes, they were probably around in the comedic scene. I know Matt Rife did his time on Wild 'N Out. He was pointed out as the comedian who touched Zendaya's face when he was like trying to make her laugh, as a make me laugh kind of thing. And You know, everybody was like, no, don't touch Zendaya. You know, we have to protect her at all costs. So I kind of like that. But outside of that, I don't, you know, it very much so seems like they just kind of pop up on these big time shows and suddenly, boom, they're it. And you're like, well, where did they come from? What sort of, you know, stand-up background do they have, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first worry that I have, is that, and again, I guess we can't just attribute the fact or the perception, at least, that stand-up is no longer creating the kind of comedic stars that it used to make. Obviously, we can't just attribute that to the fact that stand-up comedians have been sort of fighting or getting into these feuds for the past couple of years. There's something else going on there. But then also the other concern that I have, the other big concern, is that, you know, these are stand-up comedians. I sometimes think about going back to stand-up comedy. It's very tough, but it can be very rewarding just hearing people laugh and making people laugh and all that stuff. And it's weirdly enough harder for me on video. I guess in these videos, you know, because I'm like, it's just sort of a conscious thought thing, and I'm more so trying to focus in on real issues. But just the fact that it's the comedians who no longer are, I guess, entertaining in some ways, and this is where the politics thing comes in. It feels like we have gotten to such a horrible place in politics, both here and around the world, that even the comedians now are being affected in a way in which is like, even they seem to no longer be making us laugh as much as they should, I guess. It's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, they all are still very funny in their own right. You know, each comedian has their own shtick, their own persona. But at the same time, it feels less, something about the comedy that they're doing now, and, you know, they do less stand-up these days, all of them, the ones who are feuding, with the exception of Kat. Kat and Dave seem to still be doing a whole lot more stand-up than like acting or podcasting or radio hosting, whatever. But it feels less stand-up style, to where we really want to make you laugh, and more, well, I don't really want to say that. More, let's say experienced, instead of the other word I was about to say. More experienced people yelling at clouds, right? Like, it feels very much so like there's a whole lot of grievance, just like we have grievance politics. There seems to be a whole lot more grievance comedy, especially in the stand-up comedy space, to where it's no longer even observational, to where it's like, oh yeah, that's a funny observation, like a Jerry Seinfeld kind of thing. It's like they sort of come onto the stage and they're complaining, like, oh, they complain about this, that, and the other, and maybe there's a stray joke in there, maybe not. You're more than anything, you're just supposed to also want to complain about the same things that they're complaining about, and find the fact that you complain about the same things funny somehow. I don't know. It just the whole aura of comedy in general is starting to feel very. It's just starting to feel very off-putting in some ways. It really is. It really is. And I'm like, man, if the people who are, it is their literal job to take our minds off of life's most heaviest issues, if they can't seem to even get along with each other, let alone wrestle with these more difficult issues in a way that makes them funny. Because again, like I said, I haven't heard, and granted, I haven't seen a comedy special yet, but I haven't heard a whole lot of really funny jokes about the other comedians and stuff. They just seem to be complaining about each other. Even the Chris Rock's special after the Will Oscars slap, even people came out and said that, yeah, that really wasn't all that funny. I'm like, really? What? That concerns me. That worries me. Now, I haven't seen it, so, you know, maybe those people are liars. I'm kind of hoping that they are. But, oh, man, I don't know. Like, it almost, I hate to say this, but it almost in some ways feels like, and like I said, as a past stand-up comedian myself, I always knew this, you know, because it's absolutely true. But it almost feels like after the death of Robin Williams, that the veil was truly failed, that it was ripped, that it came down, and people started to see like, oh wow, no, a lot of these stand-up comedians, a lot of these people who are, they have found it their job to make us laugh. A lot of them really are kind of depressed. They're very serious people. They are, you know, they're basically exactly the opposite of what you would think or want them to be. And like I said, I was one of them, so I absolutely know. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know what else I want to say, if anything, about that. So maybe we will. Maybe we're just in sort of a transitional period in which, I don't know. Maybe Matt Rife will become, or like, the new stand-up comedy king. I did not hear good things about his special. All I heard was really all the stuff that I heard about Matt Rife, even though he had this big comedy special, was that he was the pretty boy comic, basically. That he was, a very handsome-looking comedian, and the women were going wild for him, which, that plays into the Avatar era as well. So I don't know, man. I don't know. So, I keep looking around for somebody to come and stand out and really take the public zeitgeist just by the horns, or whatever, by whatever it is, to make that analogy work. Just really grab us and take hold of us and be like, oh, gotta see that person, gotta watch that person's special, etc., etc. Even though I did not necessarily think that Amy Schumer was really that funny, I still like tuned into her specials when she was at the top, the peak of her stand-up career. Same for Kevin Hart. Now Kevin Hart I thought was hilarious. And I don't even laugh at my pain. I think it was the one where he had like the Cavs, members of the Cavaliers in the audience, and they was laughing. And oh man, the one that's like memed the most, right? Because he's standing by the microphone and he's just looking. Those were fantastic moments, and I just don't know how many more of those we will be getting in the near future, and that worries me. That worries me. So I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you guys think is going on. Is it, because it does just feel like everybody's just kind of ticked off about everything, and they're just like, yeah, this is not even funny anymore. It feels almost like they're not even trying to make it funny anymore. They're just like, am I overreacting about it? Like, have you seen some really funny stuff coming out to where there was some really good jokes about Kat or Monique or Steve Harvey or any of the comedians out there? Have there been good jokes about Jon Stewart or Bill Maher or Maher, however you pronounce his name? I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't have a sign. Hey, everybody. So while I don't have an official sign off yet, I guess I should do the whole please like, comment, share, and if you so desire and you want to see more, subscribe. But more importantly, I will ask that you please go and purchase one of my books. They are mostly ebooks, and pretty much they are all under $10. See if any of my work is actually any good, if it lives up to any of the things that I'm talking about here on my channel, specifically with the entertainment industry videos. So please go purchase my books. All of my links are down below. Thank you.